Zone Sports Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about
Cleveland gets their first win in forever.
Please like and subscribe, and I'm going to give this podcast to my brother. And sorry we haven't been on in a long time. My brother's just been sick and we haven't been able to upload. So yeah, I'm going to give this podcast to my brother now.
The Cleveland Browns will not go winless this year, as they tied the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21 in overtime. They had a shot at the field goal to go good, but the snap and the kick was no good, and the game ended in a tie, 21-21 tie. Second game, a heartbreaker to the New Orleans Saints. Saints ended up beating the Browns 21-18. But the third week of the season, the Cleveland Browns finally broke through once they inserted Baker Mayfield at quarterback. The Cleveland Browns ended up getting the win. Carlos Hyde ran the ball in for a touchdown, and then they ended up throwing the ball on a two-point conversion to Baker Mayfield in a replica of the Philly special done by the Cleveland Browns. And Carlos Hyde, 2 touchdown runs on the day. The Browns get the win, 21-17. We'll see if the Cleveland Browns can start a winning streak against the Oakland Raiders on Sunday. See if they can keep it going. The Browns have won. The Cleveland Browns get their biggest win in 2 years. And good luck to the Browns. They're an organization that, if you're a fan of the underdog, you always kind of have to root for the Browns, because they are the ultimate underdog in the NFL. But they appear to be on the increase, on the up and up in Cleveland. Baker Mayfield had a great game, and we'll see how he does week 2 if they decide to go with him for week 2, although I can't imagine going back to Tyrod Taylor. I'm not against Tyrod Taylor, but I think Baker Mayfield has a bigger upside at quarterback for the Browns. They got to stick with the hot hand, Baker Mayfield. And there's still baseball being played in September. The Boston Red Sox look like they have the potential to have a special season this year, but the Cubs have wrapped up a postseason berth with their 7-6 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates in extra innings last night, in 10 innings. And the Cubs still have a shot at winning the NL Central, but who has all clinched? So far, the Astros have clinched, the Braves have clinched, the NL East. Cubs' magic number is 1 towards clinching. The Rockies are 3 games ahead of half game ahead of the Dodgers in the West. Cleveland has clinched. Boston has wrapped up the East. Cleveland has wrapped up the AL Central. Houston has wrapped up the AL West. The New York Yankees and the Oakland A's have wrapped up at least wild card spots. On the National League, they're still fighting it out. Looks like Milwaukee or the Dodgers or the Cardinals will be the teams that are winning it out. But in the Boston Red Sox, 2 dangerous hitters in their lineup. The young outfielder J.D. Martinez and Mookie Betts. Probably the 2 best players on the Red Sox team. And those are going to be 2 tough outs when October hits. So it's going to be interesting. But we'll see what happens. But the winningest team... How often does the winningest team win it all? That's an interesting point. But the Cubs got the win. 7-6 win over the Pirates, and they're moving on to at least the postseason. So it'll be the 3rd straight year the Cubs have made it into the postseason. And of course, the win of the World Series in 2016, trying to get back there. Although it's going to be tough. There's a lot of good competition in the American League. Teams like Boston, like Houston, teams like Cleveland, I still say Cleveland. Cleveland, it's still going to be a tough out, but it's crazy. So the Dallas Cowboys lost to the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday, and the Dallas Cowboys have a huge problem, I think. I was really disappointed in the lack of ingenuity in the play calling. The play calling was very predictable. The way that Dak could only throw basically 2 yards down the field, 2-yard completions are not going to get it done in the NFL. And I was really disappointed in the offense not being creative, not throwing the ball down the field. And the offense really hit a rough patch against Seattle. And looks like the Cowboys are going to... It looks like this game. If this game's indicative of how the Cowboys are going to be this year, then Dallas is in a world of trouble. They're in a world of trouble. The Seahawks end up beating them 24-13. As only 2 yards and 2 interceptions by Earl Thomas, who I will say again, the Dallas Cowboys should have made the trade for Earl Thomas. He would have helped them out at the safety position, would have brought some veteran leadership to the defense, and would have probably been a difference maker for them. They should have pulled the trigger. A second-round draft pick for Earl Thomas. I would have made that trade. Jerry Jones didn't make that trade, and I would have made that trade for Earl Thomas. I thought a second-round pick would have been a small price to pay for veteran leadership like Earl Thomas. If you can bring one member of the Legion of Doom over to Dallas, to me, you do it no matter what the cost is. Anybody short of Dak Prescott or Ezekiel Elliott, anybody else on that roster, if you want him, you can get it. You can get them. So a second-round pick to me is a small price to pay. But was really disappointed in the offense. The defense did okay, but the offense was pathetic. 2 yards per pass completion for Dak Prescott. If you're dangling a $100 million carrot in front of him, he's got to throw the ball down the field. He's got to find his open receivers. He's got to find Tavon Austin. He's got to find Terrence Williams. He's got to find his young receiving core. Dallas doesn't really have a number one receiver right now. To me, that's not a big problem, especially when you consider that'll help the salary cap situation, at least for this year, for Dallas. But it's going to be interesting to see how Dallas responds. How do the Cowboys respond to adversity? And this year, I think a lot of heads are going to roll in Dallas if the Cowboys miss the postseason this year. Jason Garrett from the top down. This is probably a make-or-break year for them. Dak Prescott, if he doesn't produce this year, I don't know if Jerry Jones pulls the trigger on a new contract or just lets Dak go. I'm not really sure. Everything is up in the air in Dallas. Depending on how they do this year, it could set the tone for the next decade in Dallas if the Cowboys, whether or not they win or lose, it's always drama with the Cowboys. Well, the Cowboys are always going to be known as America's team, but the Dallas Cowboys topsy-turvy season is about to get a lot more crazy. But I did pick him to win the next game, so I think, at least for one more week, the roller coaster will be on the downswing. But it'll be interesting to see how they do. Well, what an exciting, thrilling couple of weeks it's been in the NFL. Tonight, Thursday Night Football takes off as well as the Minnesota Vikings, who were crushed on Sunday, will play the Rams. Thursday Night Football. Kansas City. We got the unbeaten. Kansas City's unbeaten. Patrick Mahomes has been on fire. He looks unstoppable at the quarterback position. Talk about that tie game week 2 between the Packers and the Vikings, and how Dan Carlson, the Vikings kicker, cost them a win. Had chances after chance to be the hero, chance to win it in overtime, 2 chances to win it in overtime, missed it both times, out of a job. Carlson out. Dan Bailey, the second most accurate kicker in NFL history, is now in at kicker for the Minnesota Vikings. The man who was just about automatic for the Dallas Cowboys until his groin injury, and the Cowboys released him in the preseason. So I'm going to give you my predictions for week 4 of the NFL season, which again begins tonight. It's going to be fun. I'll say that much. It'll be fun. Pro football. So here are my predictions for this week in the NFL for week 4. And so we got the Vikings and the Rams. I'm going to go with the LA Rams to get the win. Then you got the Cincinnati Bengals and the Atlanta Falcons. I'm picking the Falcons to get the win. The Philadelphia Eagles at the Tennessee Titans. I'm picking the Eagles to get the win. Miami at New England. Miami is 3-0. Where almost everybody is picking the Patriots to get the win. 1-2 on the year is New England. The Jets at the Jaguars. I'm picking the Jaguars to get the W. Houston at Indianapolis. I'm going to go against most people here, and I'm going to pick the Texans to get the win. We got Buffalo taking on Green Bay. I'm going to pick Green Bay to get the win. Tampa Bay at Chicago. Can Ryan Fitzpatrick keep the magic up? Can the Fitz magic continue? I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears and Khalil Mack on defense to get the win. Detroit Lions at the Dallas Cowboys. This one is a toss-up. Well, I'm going to go with the Cowboys because they're at home. And we got more. The Browns taking on the Raiders. That one is a toss-up as well. But you know what? I'm going to go and pick the Browns to get the win. We got Seattle taking on Arizona. The Seahawks at the Cardinals. I'm picking the Seahawks to get the win. 49ers at the Chargers. This is an overwhelming favorite for the Chargers, and I'm going to go with the Chargers to get the win due to the loss of Jimmy Garoppolo. Out for the season, torn ACL. Tough loss for this young star. Tough loss for the 49ers as their young quarterback is out for the season. New Orleans Saints at the New York Giants. I'm picking the New Orleans Saints to get the win. Kansas City Chiefs at the Denver Broncos. Picking Kansas City to move on to 4-0 and beat the Denver Broncos. And Sunday night, the Baltimore Ravens at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Usually this game is a good tiebreak, is a good game in its own right. I'm going to pick. Usually this game is a good one in its own right. I'm going to go with 24-21 for the Steelers to get the win. Carolina Panthers and Washington Redskins have bye weeks this week, so they will not be playing. Well, those are my predictions for week 4 of the NFL season, and those are my picks for week 4.
Thanks for listening to the Power Zone Sports Podcast. Please like and subscribe and follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter link will be down below. And I'll see you next time in the next podcast. Bye!